Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us this Friday morning on Breakfast Central. As always, we have the next 2 hours to share with you the major stories happening here in Nigeria. We hope that you enjoy it and also be a part of these conversations by following our social media platforms at News Central TV. If you're watching us on YouTube, do well to also leave a comment in the YouTube comment section. I am Osaogie Ogbawa.
And it feels good to be here on a Friday. I'm Joe Hansen, and we are ready to bring to you the latest stories from the news and current affairs, angle, and looking at what's really happening, especially in Nigeria. Well, we're going to start off this Friday by, first of all, talking about the very sad story, as Nigeria has indeed lost one of its political stalwarts. Talk about one who was at the during the General Sani Abacha's regime up until now, where he had served in different capacities as a minister, as a lieutenant general during that time, and also moving from one political party to another, where he also represented Plateau State in the National Assembly. Well, we're talking about the death that came announced just yesterday, the death of Jeremiah Useni, a very sad one. Nigerians have continued to speak about him and some of his antecedents and the things that he did do in contribution to ensuring that democracy did come to the fore, especially for Nigerians, moving from the military regime up until the democratic that we do have today in terms of democracy. Well, don't forget, he also served as the Minister of Transportation at a certain point in time. But the family did release a statement to be made also virtually and online that he actually died. Very, very sad situation. That's one way that we're going to start the show this morning. From us here at News Central, we do hope that the family would be able to hold on, and we share our condolences with them, especially starting from this morning. So that's one major story we are looking at starting off the show this morning. Sarage,
yeah.
I don't know if you have anyone that you might also want to look at.
I think mine is a funny story, but, before that, condolences also to Jeremiah Useni's family. He, of course, was military governor of the defunct Bendo State from 1984 to 1985. He was Minister of Transportation. Like you mentioned, he was also a senator representing Plateau South Senatorial District from 2015 to 2019 under the PDP. He did contest the Plateau State governorship election, but of course, was defeated by Simon Lalong in 2019. He's had a really, really long political journey, from the military era to, of course, when Nigeria, moved back into democracy. So yes, rest in peace to Jeremiah Useni, and also we hope that his family, of course, is comforted in this time. But I wanted to, speak about the very funny story that we saw yesterday about a policeman who decided to go into private practice, after retiring. I didn't know that was a thing in Nigeria, that once you retire, you can then go into private practice. You don't have to. You don't have to wait. Yeah, exactly. Motivational speakers, I must have told him, that you're retired, but you're not tired. So there was a news story of a policeman, Linus Monday, who, was arrested for doing stop and search, after retirement. And for me, as much as it's a really funny story, it also just highlights, the part where the retirement benefits for police officers is, obviously pitiable. It's nothing to write home about. It's not anything that a policeman would, look forward to. Plus the fact that, of course, once you retire, very likely you're going to have to move out of the police barracks if they did live there. So the benefits that they would receive, post service or after retirement, very, 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 very poor. But also highlights the part where policemen know the reason that they do stop and search. It is not because they're trying to, maintain law and order, or, because they have some, special information about, some criminals passing through that area. And you would notice that in Lekki, in Lagos, the police checkpoints are mostly out over the weekend. On Monday, you wouldn't see them at the regular spots where they, would mount their checkpoints and where they do their stop and search. Tuesday, you wouldn't see them. But once approaching the weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, nights, they are all out there, busy. Exactly. Because a large percentage of the reason that they do the stop and search is because of very likely the possibility of making some money here and there. And I'm sure that that's what, Mr. Linus Monday felt. That after retirement, what else to do instead, let me go into private practice, wear the same police uniform and continue my stop and search duties. Unfortunately, he must have been doing it alone, except he had other retirees that came along with him, to do his stop and search. But, again, it's a funny story, but also very sad. And, it again highlights, how, poor the retirement benefits are for the average Nigerian police officer. And of course, the part where the stop and search that these people, mount across the country a lot of times is not simply because of, the need to maintain security awareness and police presence here and there. Because if you need to maintain police presence, you can really just park your car at every junction, and be present in case there's an emergency. But, them, pulling over cars is very likely because of the possibility of making, some money. Well, good luck to Linus Monday.
Very, very sad. In as much as it could make you, crackle, smile, laugh, whichever way you put it. It's the reality of Nigeria today. I also saw a picture where they had, superimposed this picture and that of a senator. That these are the people that they protect.
Yeah.
But if you look at the long run, the one you are protecting is even wealthier than yourself. It's so sad and pathetic that I think it's something that the president should actually address. If our security operatives cannot afford 3 square meals a day or 2 square meals a day, the question should be: do you think they have the strength, the energy to even safeguard, protect lives and properties? Yeah. We've seen cases, we've heard stories of security operatives wearing their uniforms right under their what we call mufti, their usual casual wears. And some people said these things are done because, one, they might be passing through an area where there's crime, and they simply just ignore and move ahead because they feel like, this is not my business. And that's why you have them talk, their security, in quotes, attire right under what they're wearing. But the truth is, there's a lot. What happened now speaks volumes. And I think they should look into it for a reason. Because if that was my father, that's the first thing I thought. How would I feel?
What is he going to do? He's retired. His pensions barely take care of him. Talk less of the rest of the family. He needs to make extra income. The only experience he has is police. He's not been able to earn enough for him to set up his own security, agency or whatnot. He hasn't, gotten any skills in the length of his career for him to also seek work elsewhere. I mean, he's obviously retired. The only option is to be a security man somewhere. And I'm trying to imagine what he must have dealt with, before he decided why don't I go into private practice, since I still have a police uniform that I can use. So. But highlighting some of the things that you also mentioned, the police reforms that Nigerians have been speaking about, they're all encompassing. As much as they are, they include training, and better equipping, better funding for the police. It also includes these parts, which is what do they do post retirement? What is their pay package like? How do they even survive in current economy in Nigeria? There's too many parts of the police force that must be reformed if we want to see a functioning police force. But again, it is a mirror image of where Nigeria is. The police force in Nigeria is a completely mirror image of where Nigeria is. I don't expect to have a very vibrant, functioning police force with well-trained officers and well-equipped officers who are very professional with their duties in today's Nigeria. The dysfunctionality that is in Nigeria today cuts across, every agency of government, and that includes the security, includes the EFCC, includes the fire service, includes all ministries, departments, and agencies across the country. That is where Nigeria is, and so until we have a truly reformed Nigeria, until we have governments, at the top, who can embody the type of Nigeria that we are all looking for and have that trickle down to all other, agencies of government, to the state level, to the local government level. This is what we are going to repeatedly see. There's not going to be, much difference in the reality with regards, security, agencies across the country.
Absolutely. I mean, just to wrap things up, the same police we're talking about swung into action and were able to rescue AIG's wife. I'm talking about Akeem Odumusu's wife from the hands of kidnappers. This happened yesterday. So it was indeed, the pictures weren't too good, so we can't show you those pictures. But they were able to rescue her eventually, and she's back with her husband. Not just rescue her, but they also were able to get the ransom that was being paid. So we're saying the police can actually get to work, right? Yes, they can work when they have to. So they just need to be, supported, possibly get a good amount in terms of remuneration, salaries, and so on. And I'm sure that if these things are put in place, we would see a better policing, and not just depending on state police. But we have so much to talk about today here on Breakfast Central. Let's take a look at our top stories for today on a Friday. Appeal Court upholds Dr Adedoyin's death sentence. We'll talk about this story. It's a big one. Finally as well, Labour Union, FCCPC disagree with a 50% Telecoms Tariff hike. They may be hitting the streets anytime soon. Would you join them? IGP decorates South-South representative. This is one story. The police are also celebrating. Analyzing Nigeria's housing deficit. One story to look at as well concerning the rise and cost of living, and not forgetting housing as well. And newspaper front pages will be up next for the second hour, but let's do this. Let's go straight to breakfast headlines.
And we begin breakfast headlines from the World Economic Forum, where Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima has reiterated Nigeria's readiness to spearhead the AFCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, which, while also taking advantage of the market potential of the sector for economic integration of the continent. He joined other world leaders to push for the full implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area with a target to boost Africa's economy to $29 trillion by 2050. The Vice President and global leaders declared their nation's position at a forum of friends friends of the AFCFTA on the sidelines of the ongoing 2025 annual meeting of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump told world business leaders to manufacture in the United States or face tariffs. This comes in his first major speech to global leaders since returning to the White House this week. Trump said on Thursday, speaking remotely to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. In his speech, he added that he believed lower oil prices would help end war in Ukraine instantly. The U.S. president also said the world has witnessed a revolution of common sense in the last 72 hours since he took office. And back in Nigeria, the Minister of Power, Adelabu, has cleared the air on the allocation of the 8 billion naira in the ministry's 2025 budget, saying it is for the provision of technology to protect power infrastructure. Adelabu was responding to media reports that the ministry plans to spend 8 billion naira on electricity bills sensitization. According to the minister, the budgeted amount is meant to sensitize Nigerians on the need to show patriotism in their attitudes and conducts towards national assets, especially power infrastructure. And in the meantime, the Nigerian Labour Congress has urged Nigerians to prepare for a nationwide boycott of telecommunication services following the federal government's approval of a 50% tariff increase. NLC President Joe Ajaero condemned the hike, describing it as a grave injustice amidst economic hardship, soaring inflation and also declining purchasing power. He emphasized the strain on workers, saying the average telecoms expenditure could rise to 15% of the minimum wage. Telecoms companies argued that the increase is essential to sustain the industry and improve service delivery. And police operatives in Ogun State have killed the kidnappers of Folashade Odumosu, the wife of retired Assistant Inspector General of Police Hakeem Odumosu, rescuing her and recovering the ransom used as bait. Police spokesperson Olumuyiwa Adejobi disclosed this in a statement posted on X on Thursday, saying the Inspector General of Police Kayode Gbetokun was satisfied with the outcome of the rescue mission. Odumosu was abducted last week at the entrance of her residence in Arepo, Owode local government area in Ogun State. Her abductors demanded a 40 million naira ransom. The kidnappers intercepted Mrs. Odumosu's vehicle and took her through a swampy area to an unknown location. And the Court of Appeal in Akure, Ondo State has upheld the death sentence of prominent hotelier Ramon Adedoyin, who was found guilty of murdering Timothy Adegoke, a former master student at the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. The court had reserved its ruling on October 29, 2024, but on Thursday affirmed the earlier judgment by the Osun State High Court, which sentenced Adedoyin to death. In its summary, the appellate court stated that the judgment of the High Court in Osun State stands. Adedoyin's appeal is dismissed in part. The Court of Appeal held that Adedoyin was properly convicted and sentenced to death. And the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, has directed the Nigerian Immigration Service to immediately deploy new printers to the passport office in the Nigerian consulate in Atlanta and New York in the United States of America. The minister's directive comes days after a petition by a group of Nigerians in diaspora. The petitioners, I beg your pardon, had appealed to the minister to act after detailing challenges being faced by Nigerians in need of consular services in the two cities. In response, the minister acknowledged receipt of the petition while announcing his directive to the NIS. And I'll also tell you that striking resident doctors in the Federal Capital Territory have called on the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike and Senate President Godswill Akpabio to utilize government hospitals in Abuja to experience the challenges faced by public health workers and patients. The doctors began a 3-day warning strike on Wednesday over unpaid salaries, allowances, and other grievances following the expiration of a 3-day ultimatum issued earlier. President of the Association of Resident Doctors in the FCT, George Ebong, criticized Nyesom Wike for neglecting the state of healthcare facilities and workers' welfare in Abuja. He noted that while Wike has focused on fixing roads, many health institutions in the nation's capital remain in a deplorable state. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. Let's now move back to Breakfast Central and get into our top stories. I am Osaogie Ogbowa.
Welcome back. Nigeria's housing crisis is worsening, with millions of citizens facing a severe shortage of affordable homes. This has forced many to live in overcrowded slums and informal settlements, exacerbating poverty and inequality. News Central's Bettina Nweli has more in this report.
Lagos, home to over 24 million people, faces a significant housing crisis. This shortage has led to overcrowded informal settlements where residents often lack basic amenities. Two major factors contributing to this crisis are insecurity and climate change. Conflict and environmental disasters have displaced numerous Nigerians, driving them into already congested urban areas in search of shelter.
As long as people cannot afford to buy homes, you would always have people creating these kind of places under the bridge, in the swamp, any place that they can lay their head to get to go to work in the city. So it's the only solution to avoid shanty is to provide affordable homes for people. The federal government should take a holistic approach and look at the issues. They should look at the issues of migration because of insecurity, because of climate change, because of economy. All these things should be taken into consideration.
Recent climate data identifies Lagos as one of Africa's cities most vulnerable to flooding. Annual losses from climate-related damage in Lagos are projected to reach billions of dollars by 2050 if urgent measures are not taken.
So you have countries that have a strong comparative advantage in green energy. African countries, for instance. 60% of the solar capability of the world is in Africa, and yet only 2% of the investment. What if we strongly encouraged production of certain goods and services there, where you could use clean energy or critical minerals? When we process, they have both the critical minerals and the capacity for clean green energy. Yeah. What if we did that and then they exported this to other parts of the world so they didn't need to have these emissions, that make the world so much warmer?
Lagos faces a dual challenge: addressing the immediate housing deficit while preparing for the long-term impacts of climate change. Experts advocate solutions such as green building practices, climate-resilient urban planning, and improved drainage systems to mitigate human and economic losses. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Bettina Unwili.
It's no doubt that housing deficits is a major problem in Lagos, and we're starting to see it spread to different states, especially here in Nigeria. But we'll talk about that later on. Let's now move to a very, very controversial, we could say, a topic that a lot of Nigerians have been expecting to hear from the courts. Well, the Court of Appeal in Akure, Ondo State, has upheld the death sentence of Dr. Ramon Adedoyin, the owner of Hilton Hotels, for his involvement in the death of Timothy Adegoke, a master's student at Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. The appellate court confirmed the Osun State High Court's 2022 verdict, which found him guilty of murder. The appeal court insists that the judgment of the High Court of Osun State stands, and Adedoyin was properly convicted and sentenced to death. However, the court set aside the forfeiture of Hilton Hotels and the order mandating Adedoyin to provide education scholarships to Adegoke's children.
Now, Timothy Adegoke, aged 37, was found dead in November 2021 at the Hilton Honors Hotel, Ile-Ife, after lodging there. Testimonies during the trial indicated that the hotel staff, under Adedoyin's instructions, wrapped Adegoke's corpse in a duvet and transported it in a Hilux van, allegedly driven by Adedoyin's son to the disposal site. A consultant pathologist, Dr. Waheed Ologun, testified that Adegoke's death resulted from severe hemorrhage caused by traumatic injuries. Joining us is legal practitioner Jide Ologun. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
I mean, there's not much to argue with regards to the legal aspects of it, but let's first of all get your general, view on the appeal court's ruling, on this case.
The appeal court has proceeded to confirm the decision of the High Court. And in the criminal justice ecosystem, you have three important pillars. You talk about thorough investigation, which must have been done from the facts of the case. You talk about diligent prosecution, because sometimes you have facts that can lead you to prosecute a matter effectively, but if not effectively prosecuted, the defendant can still escape before a committed judiciary. And those three elements appear to have come together. And there are three levels to this case. We have the High Court, which has confirmed and convicted the defendant, and he proceeded to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal has confirmed that the High Court did well in prosecuting the case. Though there were other demands, prayers before the Court of Appeal, for instance, that the Hilton Honors Hotel be forfeited to the government. The appeal court did not grant that, and that scholarship should be set aside for the children of the deceased. That also was not granted. So the next level now is for Adedoyin to proceed to the Supreme Court. And from 1963, when we became a republic, Supreme Court remains the highest court in the land. So the courts involved in this, they've looked critically into the facts of the case, and the prosecutor must have done a very good job, particularly in a case like this that involves a high-profile personality that many would have expected could buy his way through justice. But right now, you can see justice saying, no, let's proceed. But once again, I'm still, touched by the fact that despite the progress made in this matter, the victim is gone, and the pain remains with the family, and of course the image with the nation, and of course a call to have a more secure society, particularly within a sector of the business environment. So that is where we are right now. So the option open to him is to proceed to the Supreme Court.
I mean, thanks for breaking it down, because that was one of the questions a lot of persons we did see, especially on the social media space, were asking what's next for him. And you said the next step is for him to proceed to the Supreme Court. We know the Supreme Court would definitely have the final say as well. But let's also look at some of the likely questions that I've been able to glance through. Nigerians are saying that it did take a long while before the court reached this decision, especially the appellate court. That why can you break it down for us and explain why it did take this long in order for this judgment to come out?
It's a bouquet of issues. The courts are busy, and if you monitored when even some justices of the Supreme Court started protesting by alleging high-handedness, corruption in that sector, and the fact that infrastructural support, training support, even internet support were not provided for them to function effectively. All those things add up to the delays we experience. By and large, there are many cases in the courts. And talking about justice, the honorable justices are wary not to be seen also to rush through the matters, because it must be thoroughly attended to, and all parties must be given what we call fair hearing in our constitution, you see, and that is why you see the matter moving from one level to the other. If it gets to the Supreme Court is also going to look at all this. But I must say that now that we've come to the conclusion, for us as lawyers, we may not say that it's been delayed. You may be surprised to learn that perhaps now in the Supreme Court of Nigeria, cases of 2009 are the cases that may be given attention, and that is where you are. Yeah. We had a matter in the Supreme Court, and we showed up in February, and it was adjourned to December.
Wow.
Same year. And I was expressing my displeasure, and the lawyer said, Barrister, go and do Thanksgiving. That you will have a date within the year. So that is our judicial system for us. We have a matter now in the High Court in Lagos State that started in 2011. And we have not even gone for trial. In fact, about 3 judges have handled the matter, and the last judge is now being prompted to proceed to the Court of Appeal. So it's like we are starting all over again. So when you look at those instances, you may not come to a conclusion that this has been delayed. But like I mentioned earlier, I expect that he should proceed to the Supreme Court, and that delicately, yeah. Because the facts are clear.
Yeah, I mean, I also, want that you speak a little bit more on the other pleas that, they have. One of them includes scholarship for the children of Timothy Adegoke. Why do you think that, the court would have denied them that? Because this is a father who had, I believe, 3 kids. And, now those kids have to fend for themselves, along with their mom. So why do you think the appeal court, maybe would have, denied, them that?
When it comes to the court system, you must be able to persuade the court to grant your prayers. We call them prayers. So, and that should have been fervently done at the trial level, because by the time you start proceeding to the appellate level, you are dealing more with issues of law and not of facts. And if you look at Section 131 of the Evidence Act 2011, it says that if you approach the court for some reliefs and you are alluding to some facts, the burden of proof is on you. So they must have looked at all those and look at the merits and then say, okay, we are not going to grant this. But basically, I think where justice lies is the fact that consequences must follow some actions. And that will also help us in preventing crime in the land. There is what we call reinforcement theory in industrial psychology, which means that what you don't punish gets worse. And so for those who may be feeling that anything goes in Nigeria, for cases like this, warnings should be going down that no. For instance, you know, Nigeria is one of the countries in the world that even still practices capital punishment.
Yes.
You know, but for China is, I think China has the highest profile of capital punishment. They don't joke with them. Because they have zero tolerance for crime in China. Even in the US, I think before Biden stepped out of the White House, he granted, you know, he transmitted some death sentences to life and pardoned some. I think out of about 73, about 3 are left on death row. And, you know, you talk about countries like, you know, around the world. But by and large, given the concept of fundamental human rights and stuff, many countries are departing from capital punishment. But I doubt if any country has departed from the fact that there must be consequences for crime. And that is where we are right now. So we monitor the case. Like I said, he has the option of proceeding to the Supreme Court, perhaps before 1963. If you are not satisfied with the decision of the Supreme Court, then you appeal further to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council in the UK. But since we became a republic, you know, now it ends at the Supreme Court. So what Supreme Court says will be final. And again, even for those who are on death row in Nigeria, how many have been executed? Many governors are not comfortable with signing with the red ink. So you find some of them just there, you know, waiting, and perhaps sometimes pardon comes from somewhere. So those are the issues, but we must rid our land of some crime. I doubt if there is any society in the world that is corruption-free, but at least you deal with it. You saw what happened in South Korea in terms of governance, where the leader was impeached, you know, and he was apprehended while trying to escape. So those are issues. We must give the rule of law its right of place, because on matters like this, you never can tell how many victims have gone down the drain without being discovered. But unfortunately, in the case of the young man, you know, it backfired. And again, when you look at the facts, the involvement of family members and things is quite traumatic.
What does that tell you? Because, you know, I've always questioned, you know, the extent with which we interrogate these issues. A lot of times, you know, we leave the conversations at the possibility of it being a ritual killing or something of that sort. But there's never really any, you know, confirmation or clarity on exactly what, you know, these cases are founded on. You know, we're still following the Timileyin Ajayi, I think, in Nasarawa State, I believe, that the most recent one that happened in the early days of the year. But a lot of times, you know, when we hear of these type of murders, nobody really understands what motivated it. So in this particular case, now you've mentioned the involvement of family members and also even hotel staff. What does that say to you?
There is what you call modeling and influence. You know, traditionally, I am a Christian by God's grace, so my children are also in that line, but it may not be the same in other climes. In the olden days, if you are incidentally a child of a herbalist, definitely you toe that line until perhaps you encounter the light somewhere along the line. So if, and I'm speaking now without prejudice, speaking on the basis of the conclusions of the courts of the land. So if he has been found guilty of these crimes, then you can easily tell the clime he belongs to in the society. And of course, you are expected to carry your children along.
What crime are you referring to?
When you talk about ritual killings, definitely, I'm not sure it's within the Christian crime or Islamic crime or even traditional crime. So it has to be occultic. And we cannot rule out occultism in the country, you see, because traditionally speaking, when you find situations like that, it's either to activate wealth, deceptively so, or reinforce wealth. I recall the case of a young chap in Ogun State, Soliu, who killed his girlfriend because he wanted to make money. He just mentioned the case of Timileyin now. Even though he's not remorseful, why will you cut off the head of a youth corper? I mean, someone you claim is your girlfriend, cut the body into pieces. For what purpose? And we are reading about Yahoo Plus and things like that. So it's really a serious issue in the society. And, you know, I spoke about reinforcement theory. So if at this point in time, the principal in this matter now has already introduced the child into that line. So you can imagine who the child will grow up to become, you see. And in the sector of corruption, you also saw the Abacha family and how they killed, and we don't have the time to go into some West African countries where leadership translates from father to son and son carries on, you know, so those are issues. Those are issues. And by and large, the assignment of the government has been clearly stated in Section 15, subsection 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, that gives us a capsule mandate that the state shall abolish corrupt practices and abuse of office. So, and that is when you can also fulfill the mandate in Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, that states clearly that the security and the welfare of the citizens shall be the primary purpose of government. In fact, in respect of this case, when this landmark case happened, we read about how some students have disappeared mysteriously in that institution. And it's also likely that some students would have been lured into that group to carry out the nefarious activity. So we still have a lot to do in terms of spreading the safety net to prevent further crimes, you know, and that is not even limited to his university. There was a time in the OAU when some students were killed, and there were insinuations that the leadership was in support. So these are issues of our time, and let me bring it to the scripture. What the scripture says is that righteousness exalts a nation, and sin is a reproach to a people. So we need righteousness in this land. When you pollute the land, you invite curses upon the land.
Let's also look at the judiciary in handling cases like this, and cases that also abound beyond this particular one. Do you see the judiciary, let's say, making some necessary adjustments? I mean, you just talked about how reasons why cases can go as far as a year, 2 years, because the judiciary is busy. There are a lot of, let's call it backlog of cases that haven't been, you know, attended to. Is there any possibility that Nigeria will get past that level where courts can actually speed up, you know, issues and cases like this, Because we've seen situations where some suspects who have not been proven guilty languish or stay in jail for so long a time. I mean, I was talking to a young man who said he had been in jail for just a petty issue, which he wasn't even part of. But because he was there, he was also picked up. And he stayed in jail for nothing more than about almost 2 years before, you know, a good Samaritan who usually combs around the prisons to help, as it were, to help prisoners, you know, speed up their cases, came in contact with him and asked him what happened. And that is what helped him to see the day of light. So can we go past this level in Nigeria's judiciary so that we can finally, you know, handle cases as they come and not keep them for 2 to 3 years, which will also affect the prisoners who may, in some cases, be innocent?
Absolutely, and it's a holistic matter. Stakeholders must be involved. Like I said, except the judge decides to visit the correctional centers to find out those who have been detained there, their status, and see what can be done. The judge is busy in the courts, attending to matters that are brought to the court. And I know some lawyers go around to try and assist. It's also about the system we have. I may suggest that the correctional centers also should upscale by profiling the inmates and making recommendations. And I can also propose to the National Assembly, by virtue of Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, that says that the National Assembly has power to make laws for the peace, orderliness, and good government in the country. To make laws that, okay, if anyone is kept in the custodial facility, it should not be more than this time. And if the person is not arraigned in court for prosecution, you let the person go. Because it's a, we have read recently about even the alleged rot in that system. In the case of Bobrisky, you know, even that is being pushed aside now, though we are still monitoring because the senior civil, Femi Falana, is proceeding to court against a very dark man. So those are issues. It's about the system we have. You go to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, you talk about getting your international passport, renewing your international passports. There are several laws facilitating prompt attention, but do you enjoy the prompt attention? So it's about the system we run. And that is why I said that it's critical that we implement Section 15, Section 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, that says clearly that the state shall abolish corrupt practice and abuse of office. As we speak right now, you are likely to have experienced the fact that you have an application with government, it sits down on a table, you know, an application that should be treated in 3 hours is there for 9 months. You see, at a point you start tracing. So we need to get serious. You know, you talk about the NIN issue. Mistakes are made, you are called to pay for it. So we need to really create a business-friendly environment with a high-profile ease of doing business. So by and large, the judiciary is trying to attend to this, and then the attention of the governor can be brought by the Attorney General of the state to say, okay, let's go and visit so. So it's a function of networking, and he has a prerogative to release. Look at the case in Osun State that came on the social media that somebody who stole fowl was handed too hard a justice. I understand the guy is back there now because even after being released, he committed another crime. You know, so these are issues. We need to profile effectively and ensure that we sanitize that system. I was reading recently that the feeding allowance used to be lifted from, is it 750 to 1,005? Imagine what they go through in that sector. And again, reports came out that if you are wealthy enough, you can be kept there and not kept there, you know, if you can pay your way through. So it's a systemic matter indeed.
Yeah. I also want to know if you would if this is one example, where you maybe Nigerians maybe should give kudos to the judiciary for, like you described, not, bending the law, to favor someone with some level of affluence. Some people have mentioned that he possibly was also going to be vying for the seat of the next Oni of Ife and all that. So this is, a high-profile individual. Should the judiciary be celebrated, or, is this simply the way that things should really be? And there's nothing, you shouldn't celebrate a fish for swimming in the first place.
When you talk about celebrating the judiciary is doing what the judiciary should do. What are we celebrating? And I say that respectfully. For instance, I read at a time of a governor commissioning the 3 poles of electricity. You published that in the media. What is in that? You see, it's what you are expected to do. So I will just say I'm happy that the judiciary is functional, but celebrate, I will not celebrate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And is it maybe also high time that because you've spoken a little bit about the possibility of ritual killings, but again, I still would say that I don't know that we have gotten proper confirmation, that exactly is what is going on. Because for me, I've always been really shocked that in 2025, in the giant of Africa, that is still the pathway with which people are either making money or, retaining money or gaining political, power and all of that. In 2025, this is something that was popular in the early 90s in Nigeria. So we haven't really grown beyond, that time as a society. That's what it means. But still, we don't have any confirmation, that these things are actually real, that these things actually work, that this is the reason that these murders, happen. But somehow, some way, it seems to be more popular in the Southwest. Is that something of concern, for residents of the Southwest?
Perhaps more reported in the Southwest. Because these cases are across the country. When you talk about the banditry, the kidnapping and everything, killings are involved. See, every soul belongs to God. So you don't have a right to take a soul extrajudicially because it's also subject to the laws of the land. So it's a matter of concern. But you know what I've said? In a community of poverty, crises are inevitable. And that is where we found ourselves now. People believing that through ritual, you can get rich or reinforce your wealth or service your power base. And let me say this here. I have met Dr. Ramon Adedoyin one-on-one. He came somewhere for a patronage, and I didn't have a sound impression, particularly when I saw his entourage, guys with half-shaved head and things like that. I had my reservations, you see, so these are issues. So it's all about our system. It's about what you have inclined to. It's now for the society, the essence of having the regulatory structure that we call government is to regulate relationships in a way that my lifestyle does not constitute a threat to your lifestyle. You see? So whether we have departed from where we were, I will answer that psychologically. Maybe some have grown out of it and some are growing into it. I'm in the threshold of 60 years of age. There are things that don't thrill me anymore. That used to thrill me.
Yeah.
I'm not out to impress anybody now. Or I live my life. I worship my God. As I grow, I plan my...
Yeah, like you said,
like someone was joking that at a particular age, you are passing the boarding gates. So those are issues. But for some now, they are desperate about that wealth. Yeah. They just want to. It's either that wealth or nothing. And how it comes
They don't care.
They don't care. You know, so these are issues. Recently, the wife of a top retired police officer was kidnapped. Thank God, she's been rescued, and the guys taken out. Like we say in police, they were neutralized.
Yeah.
You know, so this is about our society. It's about our society. And Christianity is trying, you know, and I know I've listened to some Islamic clerics that call for righteousness in the society. But the system also must promote that righteousness. There's this saying in the assumptive environment that when the desirable is not available, the available becomes desirable. Yeah. So if we upscale the system we have, the economy we have, the safety net for citizens, we'll be able to tame some of these things, you know? There are some countries of the world where it's marginal, having experience, maybe such are associated with people with psychotic problems, not with social and economic problems. And I can let you know, like I said, there are many unreported cases, and some of them fade away with the light. You know, I still recall Clifford Oji, have you forgotten, under the bridge along the International Airport Road, you know. So these are issues in our society. But with this judicial intervention, definitely some signals will be sent out. And I expect that this also should be well published. It has no interference with the court system. The decision has been given, now waiting for the Supreme Court, because sometimes it's only probably the elite that will read about it. So I don't mind if in all the regions of the country, this decision is translated into native language. You know, where somebody was exchanging, was chatting with me on this orientation about not going to scoop fuel when a tanker falls. And the person replied, but the people who are concerned, are they on social media?
That's it.
Exactly.
To be honest, Mr. Jude, there's a lot that I think we really need to do, but unfortunately, we're told that our time is out. But thank you so much. I think we've had a very, very, let's say, comprehensive, rounded conversation around this situation concerning this issue. And hopefully we'll get to hear, like you've predicted. I wouldn't say predicted, I would say like you said, concerning the Supreme Court. Yeah. Thanks for your time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
God bless Nigeria.
All right, we do have our man who's on ground and standby. Just in case you do not know, well, let's leave the situation in one state and head straight to another. This time, we're going to Rivers State, where there seemed to have been a very, very bad situation that did happen there in the Agum Bukuma fire disaster. Now, residents are indeed recounting their losses, and they are also seeking a government support. And they're doing this due to the fact that the fire was caused by a crude oil spillage. The disaster has left the community in distress with 4 casualties already reported. Our man is joining us now. He did cover that, like you saw on screen. Austin Azu joins us this morning, all the way from Rivers State. Good morning to you, Austin. I'm going to start first by letting you tell us, as usual, what the day is looking like in Rivers State before you go straight into an update concerning this story.
Yes, the day in Rivers State stands to be quite pretty, and the rising sun has appeared once again, and people seem to be going about their lawful duties. So residents of Rivers State and even those within the South-South region, the Niger Delta, are up for the day, and they are going to their various places of work. But currently we are here in Delta, and we are in Sapele precisely. We just left Rivers yesterday. Haven't gone to see what happened at Degema local government area, precisely Bokuma in Agum, where we saw the burning gas that started over 3 weeks ago.
Okay, I mean, tell us, more about this, incident, and how the people are also dealing with, the current situation.
Yes, it's quite pathetic because from what we gathered, the incident started since December 2024, and precisely it's on the 21st of December 2024, and the residents within that Zion city, they were quite apprehensive, and they were told not to, light matches, neither to, put on their gases for them to cook, not even to, use the firewood, because the place was highly saturated with the gas accidents. As at then, according to them, the place has not been ignited, has not caught fire. So, but the agency responsible for the oil wellhead came and they started to kind of trying to fix the oil wellhead. However, the thing exploded in December 25th. That was how the fire started burning. Thereafter, it burns the houses, the farm settlement within the Zion city in Bokuma. The whole place was razed down, and the residents flew away from the community. We saw some people that were burnt, their legs were burnt, and from what His Highness told us, the traditional ruler of Bokuma Kingdom, which comprises about 9 communities, said that they have lost 4 persons already. And the only thing they are asking for is government to come to their rescue to enable them restart their lives again, because they have lost their livelihoods. The particular area where the incident happened happens to be a farm settlement where a lot of persons come to do buying and selling, and their major occupation there is farming and fishing. Of course, within that corridor, they see at the other side of it, you see Boguma, and forward you go onward to Bonny Island, and behind you go to Port Harcourt City. And the other side that happens to be the island where the Bokuma are staying. The people from all over within these areas, they come to that particular island to come and get fishes, where they take onward to the city to go and sell. And we equally met some people on our way back from Bokuma, where they seems to be, checking their nets. But from what we saw, from what they were showing us, their net only caught rotten fish, and the water has been polluted already. The hydrocarbon has made that place so uncomfortable. Even myself, that very day we went there, I contracted a cough, and till now it's still affecting me. So imagine people who live within those areas. How would they be feeling at the moment? How are they faring at the moment in terms of their health? Because they have been taking in the hydrocarbon that has been mixing from the oil wellhead. So obviously it's going to be a health disaster for the people within that area. And the only thing they ask at this moment is a remediation to enable them clean up that place, so that the first and foremost is to stop the burning gas, because as we speak at the moment, the gas is still burning heavily, and about 200, you must stay away at least 200 meters, otherwise the heat of it alone might likely going to bring a human being down. And of course, you know what it means when a gas is burning continuously. So the environment is polluted already. And the only security people we saw on the ground there, the Navy and the Tatita security agencies that were equally on the ground to ensure they are able to contain that place, despite the fact the place has been condoned off. But however, the people don't have free air that they are taking at the moment. The environment is saturated with hydrocarbon, and the people now, what they are only asking is how they will be able to survive. Now, from that Zion city down to the Bokuma, the palace where the His Royal Highness is staying, and other area, we boarded a bike, and we spent almost 5,000 naira on the bike. Imagine that kind of journey that one have to leave from that particular area down to the city, to the palace where the His Royal Highness is staying. And the people we spoke to that very day, they were angry bitterly that how would they be in their own area and they can no longer go to their farming activities. That why will government be so careless, not protecting their oil facility? And of course, we know quite well that their oil wellhead belongs to the NNPCL. So what they are asking now still remains the fact that they need a fresh breath, they need the remediation work to be carried out immediately, and they need a succor because their livelihoods have been gutted by the fire. That the government and relevant agencies should come with relief materials to cushion the impact of the fire disaster that has wrecked their homes, sacked them from their homes. And what about those that have lost their lives from what the traditional ruler just said? So obviously days ahead will tell if all these demands, all this appeal will be considered by the relevant authorities.
Much Austin Azu for bringing us this update, and we look forward to hear from the governor of Rivers State. Hopefully, these people would definitely receive some form of help, succor, and would be able to, if possible, relocate from that particular area. And also, hopefully, that area will be cleaned up. Thanks for your time, Austin Azu, and thank you for shedding more light on the current situation there. Thank you. All right, so it's been a 1 hour breakfast central. We have 1 more hour to go, but let's tell you what's coming up next here on Breakfast Central. Coming up next, the Labour Union, FCCPC, disagree over 50% Telecoms Tariff hike. We also have the front pages of the newspapers. Don't forget, we'll be looking at that right now. And then, what would be our top stories of the week? Why don't you stay here and find out?
Now let's bring you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. We're joined by public affairs analyst Theophilus Akatuba. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here with you this fine morning.
Yes. Now let's get straight into we'll start with the Punch newspapers this morning. It says here, Telecoms Tariff hike, subscribers meet NCC today as Labour mobilizes for showdown. Labour officials talk tough, insist telcos must be prevented from exploiting Nigerians. We can also see here the President Bola Tinubu opens Abuja barracks, promises better soldiers' welfare. There's a bit of criticism yesterday with the number of national assets that have been named after, Mr. President here and there. Opposition cautions against diversion of 4 billion naira household bailout. We can also find police forced retirement. Falana urges Tinubu to reinstate 20 generals and 18 others. Refineries revamp. Marketers eye rehabilitation of NNPCL 21 depots. And also how we rescued ex-AIG's wife and killed abductors, says police. Oyebanji kicks against Sharia court in Ekiti, warns opposition. OAU students murder, I beg your pardon. Appeal court affirms Oshun Hotelier's death sentence. We spoke about that earlier. Those are the major stories on the Punch newspapers this morning.
All right, away from the Punch now, let's go straight to the Daily Independent and see what we have there on the front page of Daily Independent. It says, we are tackling grid collapse with building of 34 substations. Federal government says 8 billion naira in 2025 budget for protection of power infrastructure. Our electricity has reached 3-year high of 5,528 megawatts. Interesting. Federal government okays 4 billion naira conditional cash transfer for vulnerable households. Approves 2 billion naira interest-free loans for rural farmers. Shatima Abdulsalami Atiku Obi to proffer solutions to electoral malpractices and others. Tinubu assures of his commitment to welfare of Nigerian army. Murder of OAU student. Appeal court upholds Adedoyin's death sentence. Nigerian youths, very resourceful, admired globally, according to Oluremi Tinubu. And also, we have another story here. Governor Mufwang mourns Jeremiah Useni. I'm going to take just one more at the top there. It says, NANS threatens nationwide protest over 50% telecom tariff hike. That's another story to look into. But, you know, these are the stories I'm going to take on the front page of Daily Independent.
This Nigerian newspaper comes up next. It says here, skyrocketing food prices, eroding minimum wage. Workers urge government to find ways of addressing cost of living crisis. Rep Speaker Abbas blames agricultural decline and farmers' displacement on insecurity in critical farming zones. Former FCT Minister Jeremiah Useni dies at 82. And Tinubu feels the plight of Nigerians, says Wiki at Kuje Road Commission, and charges companies on corporate social responsibility. NDLEA intercepts 134.2 billion naira narcotic drugs at Tinkan Port in just 1 year. And also the federal government plans stricter sanctions for airlines over delays and cancellations. We probably should just start with the, you know, I mean, your thoughts on the passing of former FCT Minister Jeremiah Useni. He was you know, top, you know, political figure, you know, in the 90s, you know, leading into the, you know, into Nigeria's, you know, return to democracy and, you know, a bit further. But of course, you know, it's reported they had a prolonged illness.
Yeah, well, as one ages, the system of the body also ages along, and they tend to give way one after the other. And he died at a good age of 82, in spite of the fact that his last days were dotted with illness. This should be a reminder that no matter the standard, the quality of life, life has a debt to pay. Everyone has a debt to pay, and that day surely comes. Yeah. And we hear on a daily basis, some people we've not seen in a long while, we just hear that they have passed, because in the last 10 years or so, they've been battling with the normal old age or aging challenges. And so the Bible says that it is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of celebration. And when I read that scripture, I didn't understand it first time. And later on, I started understanding it, that that's where you become sober and think of the end and do what is right. And so our politicians should learn that a day surely comes when you will breathe your last.
Very sad. I mean, he's going to be remembered for a whole lot of things. Anyway, we'll come back to that story because I know we still have it in one of the other papers as well. But I want you to quickly look at this story. Let me go to Daily Independent. Let's look at Nigeria's power sector. I mean, the minister is saying 8 billion naira in 2025 budget for protection of power infrastructure. So it's about protecting the infrastructure, and it talks about building 34 substations. First of all, how would you, what's your scorecard of the Minister of Power?
From where I stand and the services that I enjoy from where I am located in Lagos, I'll give them a very resounding pass mark. But other Nigerians don't feel the same way, because I enjoy 24 hours according to the Band A promise, and it's relatively, compared to how Nigeria has always been, and having lived outside and lived in Ghana for so many years and other African countries, I think if that, what we are enjoying in the location that we are in, and it is, we can multiply that and it goes across the country, Nigeria would have achieved what all these African countries, smaller African countries have achieved in terms of reliability of electricity supply and the fact that you have it. I cannot remember how much, I have not spent more than 10,000 in electricity in the last 6 months, in generating fuel. And so from that point and other feedbacks that I get, those in Band A who are enjoying the service as promised. And the level of response of the electricity people to breakdowns, and the fact that people, a lot of areas are reporting positive development. I would say that we must give the minister, the minister some kudos. Now look at the issue of vandalization. I always tell us that if we don't develop our citizenship and improve on the quality of our homes, we'll spend more on security. You see, 8 billion to protect. Many other countries will spend that 8 billion to improve the infrastructure. And so this is what I say, what we talk about. First, we must be patriotic. We must protect what the country owns and all of that. It gives room for politicians to take advantage of us, because 8 billion to protect, at the end of the day, you might find that only 1 billion was spent, but it has become a budget item. Protection of power infrastructure. Yeah. Just the way we'll be protecting pipelines, to the extent that the pipelines that this country invested in have been abandoned. We are trucking products across the country, far distant travels. And that has the effect of making affecting the movement of petroleum products. And sometimes some areas will not have product because these are products we could have easily pushed through the pipelines. But because over the years, pipeline vandalization became a big business, people looked on, people even participated in it, and now we abandon those pipelines that were acquired or installed with heavy investment. Same thing is happening to the electricity sector. You hear that people just go there, vandalize, and they've got to restore them. It is a real big problem, and I hope that we will not be seeing this kind of budget item as we improve the quality of our citizens and the quality of our human development.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely shocking to even see it in the first place. You know, and I always like to remind a lot of, when we have this type of conversations, that very much hasn't changed, you know, with the way that we do things in Nigeria. And criticisms from the 8th National Assembly or the 7th National Assembly is no different from criticism today. You know, the way and manner with which we drop our budgets 10 years ago is pretty much the same thing now. You know, there's nothing that has changed. And so I don't expect that there will be different results in the end if we want to put 8 billion naira in sensitization when there's a National Orientation Agency that is fully functional. The National Orientation Agency should be the one that, you know, handles these projects. And I don't know what type of sensitization that you need to put 8 billion naira into to tell people to not vandalize infrastructure. The bandits that they've blamed for destroying power infrastructure in parts of northern Nigeria, they don't need sensitization. You know, I mean, those are bandits. Except you're referring to the petty thieves in different parts of the country that, you know, go to vandalize transformer. But the point is, it's completely shocking.
They say the money is for protection.
Oh, okay, well.
It's for the protection.
It's for the protection.
Yes.
Okay, well, interesting. Which is, again, is still not meant to be their responsibility.
That's what I'm saying. It's a sign of failing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because if you fail to properly orient your citizens, properly develop them, if you allow homes to continue to falter the way Nigeria does not take care of the family unit enough, the result of it is that you spend more money in securing the society.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's a similar point with education as well.
The system?
If there's no educational system that we don't have now, we have to spend money dealing with all these.
Over the years, we have been miseducated. And so we have generally, as a people, we have interesting mindsets from different parts of the country. Everyone is angry over what he doesn't understand.
Would you also argue, you know, when you mentioned Band A, and, you know, from your own personal experience, you give them a pass, but what is the percentage of Nigerians that are on Band A? And the country is still dealing with 4,000 megawatts of electricity.
They said we have moved to 5,000. We have achieved 5,000 plus. Now, that's the report in the newspaper we're reviewing.
Okay, 5,000.
5,000 plus, which is a progress. But don't forget that the discos over the years have been the missing link. They continue to reject electricity that is delivered to them because the end user, the consumer, is not paying adequately and there's leakages in the system. Those leakages are very obvious around us. I know of an estate that is currently in court somewhere in Nigeria, in court with the electricity people or whether their management over electricity management, where there is what you call the estate itself is an off-taker from PST and a resell to a citizen, to estate residents. Now, what is happening there? They get every month, they have, if they buy 100 million or 200 million worth of electricity, by the time they sell to their estate people, there is still a shortfall of 27, 30 or 15 million that they all have to share, meaning someone in the estate is still in the light. This is a small area. It's replicated all over. And in many of these rural communities and shanty areas, the stealing is humongous. That's why they give them barely 4 hours, because they are trying to protect the leakages. So when they migrate people to Bande, they've relatively looked at that area that is properly well metered or the area is controlled and they know that leakages have been reduced, then they migrate the people to Bande. But when they're giving you 4 hours, 5 hours, they're just afraid that if you give them 24 hours, most of it will be stolen. Yeah,
the point I was trying to make is that that doesn't necessarily paint the picture of what Nigeria's power sector is. You know, if only Band A people are speaking, you know, because, well, in our area, we're not going to steal electricity, so, and we pay our bills regularly, so we have regular electricity, but a larger percentage of Nigerians down Band B and C and D and K and Band...
But see, this is what I tell Nigerians. I'm somebody that I will look at where we are and look at, is there anything we are doing to change the situation? In the past, the attitude has been that all Nigerians should have light. You understand? We should make sure there's electricity. And we never got there.
And water.
So now they said, okay, let's find another way. Let's get those who can have this number, let's move them to the A. Let them enjoy the power and pay for it. Those in Band B, you will continue to be managed until you get to that threshold. Today, the NLC is saying, don't move people. Leave them in Band B. How can the NLC say that when we are all supposed to be moving to Band A as the ultimate goal of the entire country?
Anyway, let's move to other things. I also want you to talk about still something similar. The Telecoms Tariff hike. You know, subscribers meet NCC today as Labour mobilizes for showdown. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, you know why government in the past shy away from removal of subsidy? They shy away from floating the currency. The implication of that, all the other governments sat in every room and they discussed the effect on the Nigerian economy. When you remove fuel subsidy, the first thing you have done, and all the cost of running telecom services have jumped up. What do you expect? If they buy any part, it's bought at twice or thrice the price. If they buy services that are rendered by a third party. So if you say the telcos should not be given an opportunity to have a raise, how do you expect that business to actually function optimally to the satisfaction of the citizens that are using it? What's the use of having a phone that will not function optimally? That cost will drop. Not only that, your quality of your data services will be low. Everyone has moved up in prices in this country, including government services. Are you saying the telcos do not deserve a raise in their businesses when you know the cost of managing cell sites have gone up? I am a realistic person when I assess the system. A lot of things are still the cheapest in our country. Sometimes I tell them we over-push it to the extent that we stifle life out of the businesses because we have underpriced our goods and people are not even paying the right salaries in Nigeria. Nigerians are underpaid all over. We are the most underpaid citizens in the world. And yet, we feel that we are doing well. That's why once these subsidies were removed, all of us became exposed. Because over the years, in the guise of this low rate of things, we have underpaid ourselves. A Nigerian doing the same job, doing better, is getting peanuts compared to his partner or who lives in Ghana doing the same job. And Ghanaians are not economically better off than Nigeria in terms of when you look at it on the macro level. Why then should we always fight to keep reducing the opportunity for businesses to give better services, to keep reducing the opportunity for businesses to do well? This is the only country where you drink yogurt, you don't have yogurt, you don't have something else. Because the people who manufacture it, they are benchmarking against what people would like to pay and not what people should really enjoy as yogurt.
So in other words, if Nigerians want the best, you just have to be ready to pay for it.
That is what.
Yeah, but unfortunately, can Nigerians afford to pay for it?
No, they cannot afford immediately, but they will be able once they are paid well.
So do you agree that the tariff hike?
You see where we are now.
50%. Is it not too sudden?
You know why telecom services are not? They don't move prices easily. Just check how long ago the current regime has been operating. They normally go for the highest peak so they can retain for 10, 20 years or 15 years. Otherwise, they will be asking every now and then for increment.
Well, some persons are saying at least they should do 10% first or do 15.
They asked for 100%.
I know.
So
it was 100%,
if they give them 50%,
yeah, 50.
They must have looked at it, but we can still continue to agitate.
I actually do agree with the need to increase,
Yes.
tariffs. I mean, I agree. And the argument, of course, is pretty much something you've mentioned, which is operational costs have increased over time, and so it's difficult for them to maintain the quality of service that we want without, getting the funding for it. And of course, Nigeria's not been able to pay for it. But it brings us back to, the ability of Nigerians to afford to even pay for it. And that's why, again, the segregation about Band A and Band B, it left a sour taste in many people's mouths because, what that meant really is that you are now going to be giving priority to only those who can afford to pay for it. And imagine telecoms do the same thing. That when you buy, 5,000 airtime, or this caliber of airtime, you have good service. But when you buy the lower caliber of airtime, then you will get poor service. Your data will work faster when you buy, this particular service. I mean, imagine they then have to do that, in order to make ends meet. But yes, operational costs have increased, and so there needs to be some way that it shifted. Does Nigerian government feel NCC now, or sorry, the Nigerian Labour Congress is going to protest?
The Labour Congress I want to speak to the Labour Congress.
Yeah, I mean, so who do you think that conversation should be directed to?
No, the Labour Congress want to meet with, is it the regulator?
Yeah, the regulator.
Correct.
Yes,
they need to meet with the regulator, but the regulator has to justify why they approve 50%. There are indeed figures, there are evidence that no business in Nigeria within the last 5 months that have not moved prices up. Even those who trade on our streets. The price at which we buy roasted plantain has moved.
Corn.
So corn has moved.
Season is coming, and
so
I know that.
We cannot deny others because they are a regulated sector.
Even bread.
Yeah, have moved. We cannot deny these people the opportunity to expand and do better. We don't want these businesses to collapse. That is not the reason they invested in Nigeria. That's not the reason we even need them, because if they collapse, before we get other people into the system to get used to it, we will suffer from the lack of the use of these services. We must fight for the best. Everybody must agitate, but let us not do it with a mindset that they don't deserve to move price.
I mean, like we said here on Breakfast Central, we've been clear about it. We agree that they must review their prices upwards, because if you list all the challenges they're facing right now, I don't think any company would face these or those challenges and still remain in business, especially here in Nigeria. But the argument has just been about what percentage.
What beats me, I've not heard the media broadcasters have not also come up to say they are reviewing their prices. I've not seen that. The prices I see.
Well, thanks for bringing that up.
Are still old rates.
Well, I can categorically tell you that some of the media houses have done so.
They've done so.
They reviewed their prices. Their rate cards have changed.
I think they're also being considerate about the ability of clients to pay. So you can review, no doubt, but how many people are going to?
But that's an area I like to speak to. The Nigerian media over the years have not priced themselves appropriately because they also did not invest in content enough to deliver the eyeballs that a higher advertising rates, delivers. The SABC in South Africa, as at the time, 10 years or 15 years ago, they charged up to $10,000 for one 30 seconds advertising rate on primetime programming. And that was a country then that they were paying up to $6,000 for 1 minute of a soap opera. So if you look at that, they invest in content and then they actually charge the right amount for advertising, and they have remained some of the premium broadcast television country in terms of content delivery and all of that. You see, while you charge peanuts, you will never be able to deliver the service because media is expensive to run. And because Nigerians, we seem to have lost eyeballs out of the traditional television, we are still now unable to price ourselves properly.
Well, you do have a point, but I can also share with you that there are many factors underlying the reason why you'd find most media houses not being able to price way higher. But I don't think News Central is the same, by the way. I think.
Yeah, but I think I agree with your argument concerning the investment that has been put in. Invest in the quality of content. So you can then, even if a lot of people would still struggle because, I think a lot of media houses also don't have a long-term expectations. They don't have this is where we want to be in 5 or 10 years. The normal projection is that if you do things well, you should be making money.
Let's make money now in 3 years or 4 years.
Maybe that's one of the things. There's definitely other reasons.
Big money in 3 years,
there's
4
definitely
years.
Please quickly respond, Joe. I'm sorry.
Go on,
the Osun State story
About the Sharia court.
No, well, there's the Sharia court one, and then there's the hotelier, who has.
Yes, I was very happy at the affirmation of a death sentence, because that was gruesome, that was dastard. In fact, you see, do you know the impact? The impact of what happened there has capacity to destroy the entire hospitality industry.
Of course.
Because when a man,
of course,
and when people no longer feel safe within hotel facilities, where it's supposed to be home away from home, in fact, more secure and safer than your own home, it destroys the effort of everyone in the sector, including tourists who will choose Nigeria as a destination.
Very true. Yeah.
And such a story will pop up, that a man who simply went to a hotel was killed. So it's so painful for the family of that man. I know that there's a lot of underhand dealings because he's a wealthy individual. He might be fighting to free himself so that he can celebrate his vindication. I know that. Yeah. But thank God that judge is holding forth and holding strong, because there's no way the judges and the judiciary, the pressure on them to get him out of the hook. I hope none of the people, when it gets to Supreme Court, I hope they will hold on, because what happened in that place till tomorrow, I just can't imagine how someone who innocently, with good condition, with a family, went to a hotel to relax on his way to school, and then he's killed. Whoever did that. And if the investigation pointed fingers and the case has gone that hog and they are able to look through it and say it's affirmed, I want to say that it will send a signal and a message to anyone who in his attempt to make inordinate wealth damages our entire life. Because you can do it in a small village, but it affects everyone.
Yeah, true. And I agree with how it affects hospitality business here in Nigeria. A couple of days ago, I think I don't know if you must have seen it. A popular DJ was complaining, that she had traveled, she was in Bali and many other places, stayed in hotels, over there. Yeah. The day she landed in Nigeria, that day she touched down, stayed in a big hotel here, a very big hotel here in Lagos, and her bag was. The money in her bag was stolen.
You see,
from her hotel room, inside her hotel room, by people who came to clean the room. And so it's there's too much.
This brings me to the point where when Nigerians when we talk about a country, the feeling that a non-citizen have on arrival, not to talk of citizen, is very important.
Yeah.
The ambience, the welcoming, the peaceful, the security that you experience is the biggest, attraction to tourists, because no one wants to go where he feels unsafe with his own money. And if we can improve the way we behave and the things we do, especially hospitality, those in transportation, because everybody who comes to Nigeria meets a driver first. The way the driver treats that person, the atmosphere in your car, and the way you welcome the person, to your country, they put him in a hotel, the way hotel takes care of him, the airport staff. If you do that, and many people come to Nigeria, and each one spend $2,000, the dollar we are finding from oil, only tourists alone coming to Nigeria will give us enough dollar inflow.
You know, the truth is, I even feel, I mean, we saw what Dirty December did.
Yes.
And the Lagos State report, how many billions of naira that was spent. Coincidentally, it was mentioned that only in Ikoyi and Victoria Island, 29 billion. I still feel that that's
29
not...
billion.
29 billion now. I still feel that that's not the actual number.
Yes.
That's not the actual figures.
That
It's
was what
even
they
more than
captured
that.
anyway.
It's even more than that because most of the hoteliers and some of the hotels, especially on the island, the mainland is not even added. Talk about Ikeja, which is a very hot spot for hotels, especially those who want to be very close to the airport. They made more than that. So we agree that, I mean, hospitality tourism it's a very, very significant and important sector that can bring a lot, like you said, a lot of this money that you're looking for, especially in the oil and gas sector.
Get it.
But truly, if this case goes south, I think it's going to send a negative message to investors alike, to tourists and every other person that, am I going to a country where should anything happen to me?
Well, we pray the best is done, but if he's innocent,
so be it.
So be it.
Oh, wow. Now, quickly, Ekiti State, there's no Sharia court panel in our judiciary structure, says Ekiti State government.
Well, that's good. It's timely because the Muslims and Christians, but the state does not subscribe to Sharia law. So what would you be doing with a state that does not practice or has not implemented Sharia to have a court, for that? So I think it's good to clarify that because it's always, what I know is that all these things have political undertone. We will soon know why this cry and these ideas. But I think it's fair. I don't see any state in the southwest of Nigeria that is predominantly Muslim enough to want to practice Sharia.
Do you think the political undertones would get stronger?
Yes, there's no smoke without fire. I just want to wait until it grows into the wings that it is desired or designed for.
Okay. Joey, do you have any other stories?
Yeah. I'm just going to take one last one. I'd like him to react to that one. And I'm going to go straight to the AIG's wife, ex-AIG's wife, who was abducted and eventually has gained her release. The talks here and there about how the police can actually get to work if they really want to, like we've seen in this instance.
Yes, the Nigerian police force, it's the police force of this country. I will have no doubt that they have everything in terms of intelligence, in terms of understanding, to know where things happen and how things happen. If not for the trading mentality that is within the force, they have always reason when they want to. But they have a trading mentality. And because also they are not properly funded, because if you don't fund them, they will have to run anyhow, because the person managing the force must keep his job. And so he speaks to his men to ensure they run. And so they do everything to run the organization. And that is where the country falters, where the police does not deliver services to the citizens. You hear abroad, call 911, because they are confident that the police will arrive.
Yeah.
But our police will ask you please transfer some money for the distressed is the one that is going to pay for the service. The police people are not well funded. The police station nearest to you is not adequately funded, because there was a day someone had a problem. It was a two-fighting case. And I went there. The women that were detained, I said they should release them to me. The people said I should pay the bail money. I said, but pay bail, why? I inquired. The man looked at me and said, I don't understand. I pay to, are they birds or chicken that are put in a cage that I need to pay to buy them? Then now the policeman said, oh God, look, we run this station. Can't you see the bulbs? We buy them. We even paint the station. They don't give us any money. I was shocked. He explained that that's how we make collections.
Yeah.
So we should not also pretend that our government or the funding for the police is inadequate. The police boss that was defending the budget also pleaded that budgets allocated to them should be released in good time. Nigerian police need more money, more men to police this country, because the country is immersed in crime. Crime is the culture of the country.
Some just graduated.
So what happened to the man whose wife was, is a stark reminder to everyone that we could be victims.
Yeah.
And that we should not misuse or fail to fulfill our role when we are called upon, especially as a police officer in this country. Because tomorrow, you may be the one who need the same police. And thank God that the woman has been found. But every day, she will remember that other people could be in this situation and the police are failing them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to say thank you so much. Thank you for joining us to review the papers.
It's a
We
pleasure.
looked at the Punch, not forgetting to Daily Independent and this Nigeria. Wonderful stories to look through. Well, just in case you haven't gotten the papers yet, well, feel free to follow us on all socials and we'll point you towards the right direction to do so. We'll go on a break. When we come back, we have more here on Breakfast Central. Do well and stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Nigerian Police Force has decorated Jonathan Touru, a former Assistant Inspector General of Police for Zone 6, Calabar, as a member of the force management team to represent the South-South region of the country. This decoration follows his recent appointment as Deputy Inspector General of Police by the Police Service Commission, an elevation from his previous position as AIG for Zone 6, Calabar. Now, while performing the decoration, the Inspector General of Police commended Touru for his dedication to service and encouraged him to continue to represent the police in a positive light.
The appointment of this excellent officer who has proved everywhere he has served to be a reliable officer, committed to the values of honesty, integrity, courage, and steadfast commitment to justice. These are the values that form the cornerstone of the Nigerian Police Force.
Well, it seems that a lot has been talked about the security operatives here today on Breakfast Central, on the Friday. We've looked at so many stories regarding the Nigerian police. First off, when we started, we talked about the retired but not tired police officer, I beg your pardon, kind of like strikes a different chord. And then we've also talked about the rescue of the ex-AIG's wife. Not forgetting to, on the papers, we also discussed how the possibility would come by to see Nigerian police force be what it used to be again. And our newspaper guest just left down. He talked about, putting more money and showing that they're well paid, and then we would have a more secured environment and state. I think it's true rather than wait for state policing. Well, let's take a look at our top stories of the week. That's what we will be talking about next. Well, today's top story, you might be thinking, will focus on the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, And of course, the counterpart, you could say, the governor of Rivers State, talking about Siminalayi Fubara. But within that is one story that we also want to look at. Well, today is another day that marks a very important day, especially here on News Central. But let's take a look at a clip that would help us to go straight into our next very own top story of the week.
2015 Nigeria, after the government came into office, it took a while before they eventually named its cabinet or its ministers. And a lot of Nigerians at that time pretty much said that these persons that were named were simply rewarded for their support of the government's election bid, presidential bid, basically. So that seems to be what's playing out in Kenya now with William Ruto and the criticism there. The giant of Africa still has people who believe that some native doctor has the key to giving you billions of naira if you simply bring human parts. It's painful, but again, we must interrogate these issues and know exactly what we are dealing with. Are these incidents truly happening for money ritual purposes, or is there maybe a thriving but silent body part or organ harvesting market in Nigeria? It calls to question, how much, African governments invest in certain things, invest in education, invest in healthcare, invest in security, invest in infrastructure. I don't know if we will, ever get to a place where these things are no longer parts of, a major conversation because they are now normal. Good morning, Nigerians. Now, a lot of times when we analyze the spending of government and criticize waste in government expenditure, many people fail to understand the gravity of it all. Because you earlier mentioned the DSS had put out a message. Now the UK and the US, are putting out those same security alerts. But the Minister for Information, Lai Mohammed, says there's nothing to worry about and everyone should stay calm.
It was Shakespeare that said, "Parting is such sweet sorrow," end quote. And I'll add my own. It's actually those who leave a lasting impact on us that we feel sorrow at their absence. Osage, you're going to be deeply missed. You're going to be missed for what you bring, not just to Breakfast Central, but also to News Central as a company and as a family. You're going to be missed for your dry wits when you're off the air. Some that gets an opportunity to sneak onto on-screen antics, but we get to see a different side of you than what the audience gets to see. And that's a side of you that has had many people here at the company fall in love with you. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for your work ethic. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for just putting yourself into the work we do here at News Central, and it has spoken for you that even when we part, we wish each and every one of us the best because we hope to meet again in better times, in better circumstances, and with progress. Also, again, you will be very much missed. When you told me the news, you knew I wasn't happy about it, but of course, eventually it is what happens as people's lives and people's paths diverge. But we hope that in the future, as we watch you develop and grow elsewhere, that we'll continue to have those ties that bind us to the story. And your story, your name will always be part of News Central's story. Thank you so much, Osage, for the past several years of work and dedication, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Hi, Osage. In a few months, it would have been 3 years that we worked together. And in those 3 years, I have laughed so much at work. I have learned, I've enjoyed my job. They say that you don't have to be friends with your colleagues, but I consider it a blessing and a gift when you have a colleague that becomes your friend because it makes the job easier. You, my dear, are my friend. News Central has gifted me a friend. I'm proud of you. I'm glad to have experienced you. I'm rooting for you in your journey. I wish I could keep you back, but you would always have a home in News Central with us. And I certainly wish you all the best now and in the future. Thank you for making me laugh. Thank you for making the job easy. Sometimes it's hard to wake up at 4 a.m. and do what we do, but you make it easy. Knowing that I'll come to work and I'll do this with you has made it easy for me. So thank you. Thank you, my friend. I'll miss you terribly.
Osaoge Ogbawa, the fireman himself. Okay, this feels really weird because we're going to miss you so much. As your producer, I have to say thank you so much for making it easy to be producing for you. You study, you prepare, you engage, and it just makes the work enjoyable. So thank you so much for making work beautiful for us over here. When I met you, I remember asking you, because I thought you were not approachable, and I actually asked if you're the kind of person that I can approach easily. And you're like, sure, why not? And I'm like, this guy, he looks too serious. But nah, you've been really awesome. You've been a fantastic friend and a good colleague. So thank you so much for making work easy, for making work fun. Yeah, making work really fun. Thank you. We'll miss you so much, but all the best. Good luck.
Thank you for all you have done on Breakfast Central. Thank you for bringing all the weight, the hardness, the play into the production. Thank you for making production super easy. When I joined Breakfast Central about a year ago, I thought you're not going to be approachable. I thought you were going to be hard. But guess what? Meeting you, I've made it super sweet. Thank you for all you have done. Thank you for engaging in the production. Thank you for being part of the production. Thank you for always calling out my errors and making me a better person in production. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you, man. I will super and deeply miss you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I can tell that to all our viewers, of course, it's a sad and I'd say it's a bittersweet story. Today happens to be Osarage's last day with us here, not just on Breakfast Central, but on News Central, as he will be transitioning to something new. And we want to wish him nothing more than the best. Like I told the rest of the team, I mean, if I'm going to start talking about Osarage, I'm sure time would not allow us to talk some more. But I've worked with someone who is astute, who has been a professional year in, year out, someone who gives his best 100, not 90 or 70 or 60, and someone I have no worries about. You know, when you just have someone you work with and you're like, you're confident, you know 100%, you don't have any issues, you just know, oh, Osarage is around, we're good to go. You know, just focus on what you need to do in terms of the stories, the production, the back end. Let him do what he knows how to do best. So to my friend and my colleague Osarage, all the best. And we chose today to say thank you. I know the party will continue as we celebrate you. That's what we do here on Breakfast Central, on News Central. Thank you so much for the years you put in. It was going to be 3 years, a few months' time, but of course, you know, 2 years and a few months, there's nothing wrong with that. Thank you, and thank you again. Like they say in the Warri Palace, now man you be. Eh?
Listen, you people set me up. You know, I didn't.
You didn't see that coming.
I thought I was going to escape today mostly because I have something that I have an engagement, on the island. So I was already thinking that immediately I'm done, I'm gonna rush off, back to the island. But I mean, everybody who knows. It's a struggle. Everybody who knows that this has been one of the hardest decisions that I've made in a long time. Mostly because of how long that I've been in broadcasting. I've been in broadcasting for 13 or 14 years, I think. And News Central, of course, is the last, broadcasting, job that I would handle. But News Central has been home to me. It's been a very beautiful experience. I've had the things that I would complain about every now and then, but at the same time, it has been home. News Central has made the job easy for me. It has given me so many reasons. It's one of the reasons why it was difficult for me to say that it's time to let go of broadcasting and move somewhere else because of what News Central, the ease that News Central brought into the process. And so I'm grateful to everybody who's been a part of this journey, right from radio. I started radio in 2012 in Enugu. Did radio for about 8 to 9 years, then started doing television in Lagos. Kayode Akintemi gave me my first shot on TV at some other television station.
Yeah.
He's currently still our MD here at News Central. So, I mean, there's too many parts of the story that you know, I wouldn't have the time for. I wouldn't have the time for.
I came prepared.
There's too many parts of the story I won't have the time for, but, you know, I would just say thank you to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the work that we've been able to do on TV. It's mostly because everybody wants a better Nigeria. It's not simply because of the love for broadcasting, but because we want a better Nigeria. And so I'm grateful. I can't keep talking, so I don't keep trying. So, but I am really, really grateful, and you know, there's so much more that we will do in the future.
Absolutely.
But thanks to everyone.
Well, there you go. I think I'm going to take it from here to wrap up the show. It's a bit emotional moment, especially for all of us here, and we cannot help but say, I mean, farewell to our very own Osarige Ogbonwa, who has done so well, especially working with us. Well, until we come your way again, that will be next week. You get to find out who's going to sit on Osarige's chair, and hopefully we'll get to drive the show from where we've left it to the next phase, to where we're taking it to. Olive would return, not just yet. She's on a little break, but of course, like I said, when we come back, that will be until next week. The guys from the weekend will take over from us. That will be Breakfast Extra. Make sure you join Mazino and Judith Saturday and Sunday, which starts tomorrow. But from us here, Sarge, thank you so much. Thank you once again. Like they say in Warrior Palace, now man you be. That's for the show. All right, we're starting out. Thanks for watching, okay? Have a great weekend.